Welcome back. This is the morning show here on Signature TV, and it is Wednesday, April 30, 2025. Today we'll be speaking on this issue, the rising incidences of gender-based violence. I mean, it's one that has been up for a long time now, and so many persons have attributed these issues to maybe domestic issues, relationship issues, and sometimes even third-party involvement. We have with us this morning Mazi Jerry Udochu. He is a program officer, Civil Research Development and Documentation Center, CEDOC. Thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Thank you very much, and welcome listeners.
So, if you were to explain what the sexually gender-based violence is, what would that be?
Well, according to a simple definition, sexual and gender-based violence is any act of sexual violence against any person on the basis of the person's gender, whether the person is a man or a woman. So when there is a sexual act against that person based on the gender, that is what we call sexual and gender-based violence.
So is it peculiar to a specific gender?
Not at all, but maybe we can now rate it in the ratio of probably 8 to 2. Yes, or at times 9 to 1. On the part of men, you have the greater frequency and occurrence, but on the part of women, lesser occurrence. But it happens to both gender.
Okay, who is the most? Which group is the most vulnerable when it comes to that? Is it boys, girls, women, men?
Well, women and girls in general, but recently it has taken a different turn. You are now seeing even minors are being sexually violated. Minors. When we talk of minors, talk of children of months old, 2, 3 years old, 4, 5 years old. These are minors, and they're also part of the receiving side now of victims.
What causes it?
Well, a lot of things causes a lot of factors. One, they say charity begins at home, and let's start from our homes. Part of the problem starts from family orientation. If you grow up in a family where violence persists, you may grow up to become a violent person. And the when parents also fail to do what they're supposed to do. Maybe you see your child doing the wrong thing, probably because of mixing up at schools or in social gathering, peer pressure, and you could not correct that child. Just like even the scripture said that if you don't correct a child when the child is tender, he will grow up to be a thankless child. And this is part of the problem. Now we also come up from the family to the larger society, and we come to the community, because it is in the community that we have the frequency of occurrence of this sexual and gender-based violence, because it's within the community. You have place of worship, you have schools, you have marketplace, you have business place, you have the streets, you have social gathering. So in the community too, we find out that part of the reasons why this is increasing is lack of community leaders also to set a fine example. My people in Igbo adage will say, "Nankita da atokpo anyadore n'olu." And today you see it turns out to be so. When the community leaders are not setting example towards this area of sexual and gender-based violence, now when the center cannot hold, then things will fall apart. Every other person now that's supposed to look at them as a role model will now start looking at what they are doing as if it's nothing. So that is on the part of the community leaders. Then also within the community, you also see some people who may form part of the community but want to show power, control, especially the men fold, they want to show the power control. They can dominate a woman. They can detect how a woman should live his life. And because of that, they see sexual and gender-based violence as nothing. They want to dominate and show power. Then also cultural, a kind of culture in the society. And part of this culture is a culture that forbids people to mention even such acts. So die in silence. Those who are being affected, the victims cannot speak out. And if you then speak out, say, why are you even saying this kind of thing? It's an abomination. The culture also forbids the woman from reporting the husband for abusing her either sexually or through other domestic means of violence at home. They now say, do you want you and your husband to, start coming before a judgment seat of the elders and so on? So the women mostly would be dying in silence. And also parents too at that point. When their child become a victim of sexual and gender-based violence, they want to cover up. They will not want them to speak out. Maybe if it's a girl, they say, the future would be affected. If they expose this, men will not marry her again because they say this one has been violated and so on. And this kind of culture now increases or give impetus to the perpetrators to keep on doing what they are doing, because nobody sees it as a wrong thing. And even if you see it as a wrong thing, you cannot speak out. And that is why we formed this slogan of always see things and speak out all the time. Do not hold this. Then within the community also, we another set of leaders become the religious leaders. These are people that are supposed to teach us moral ethics. They're supposed to guide us in the way of morality. In fact, apart from when you leave parents, the first port of call now will be the religious leaders before even a child will now start going to school. But we'll come to that of the teachers. So you find that in the religious environment, even religious leaders too are perpetrators. In fact, it's sad to tell you that within the last quarter of last year and now, first quarter of 2025, I've handled a case of about 3 religious leaders involved in sexual and gender-based violence. And this sexual and gender-based violence, the 3 cases I have, they were not cases of sexual and gender-based violence against an adult female, but against minors.
Wow.
6 years, 12 years, and I think the latest is about 16 years.
Wow.
To the point of even getting them pregnant and trying a way to cover it. You see, once I look at these things, I start feeling so bad. Many years ago, I read a book. The title is What Has Religion Done to Mankind? You find out all sorts of atrocities committed by religious leaders during the First and the Second World War. Even assisting to traffic hard drugs. Then today again, you also see, apart from that, area of sexual and gender-based violence. Religious leaders who are supposed to see it and teach people morality will now turn to be perpetrators. Then how do you think also the congregation and their followers will feel? So that is on the third stage, because I mentioned family, I mentioned traditional rulers, and now we talk of religious leaders. Then also we move to school environment. That is where you have all sorts of sexual and gender-based violence, such as sexual harassment, which is unwanted or unwelcome sexual advances. You also have sexual exploitations. And what are the factors that increase these sexual exploitations? Poverty at times. Because sexual exploitations, we have found out, always occur between somebody in power or a wealthy person and a poor person. Take, for instance, in school, somebody will want a grade or will write, what do they call it? Is it term paper or whatever? And before you can be offered a mark, the lecturer will say, I must sleep with you. That is sexual exploitation. Because you are now using your position in order to victimize the one who wants to benefit. That is on one side. Then sexual and gender-based violence can also be perpetrated by somebody who wants to benefit. A lecturer may be also decent and morally upright.
Right.
And a student who failed to read, who party all night and gallivant all over town. And when he, after exam, he will now go to the lecturer and said, please, just give me a pass mark. In fact, whatever you want, I will do. And when somebody says whatever you want, you're already extending a blank check
To the person.
to the person. So it happens either way. So my brother, there are lots of the reasons why it escalates. Then we move to the last stage, which is also the state actors or government themselves. What are they doing? We don't have, well, I can't say in Nigeria, I always tell people, when we say we don't have strong laws, we do. A lot of them. Not only in the area of sexual and gender-based violence, but in other areas, we have laws. But our problem is implementation. The law enforcement agents are not doing what they're supposed to do when it comes to issue of sexual and gender-based violence. In fact, if it's occurring between a husband and a wife, they will say it's a family issue.
But I mean, the one for the husband and wife is quite dicey, because you mentioned just now that sexual
and gender-based violence
exists between husband and wife.
Yes.
What constitutes sexual-based violence between a husband and a wife?
Well, good. Remember what we are saying, sexual and gender-based violence.
Yes.
Sexual in the sense the husband will want to have sex. Gender-based because you are a woman. You don't have control over your body. Like just yesterday, if I knew this kind of thing is coming, a girl walked into my office and now said the husband, what we asked the husband to be given, upkeep and so on. He failed to do so. After 2 months, he suffers from nowhere because he wants sex from the woman. That day he brought 40,000 and said, okay, Sidok say I should do this. After 2 months, oh, take it and buy things for the family. And when the wife returned, he now wants sex. The wife said, no, I'm not in the mood. You have deserted us for about 2 months. You just
like
come
he
back
left the home.
Yes, yes. Yeah, you come back today, brought 40,000 for us to cook. We haven't even cooked and eat this food, and you're demanding. You now started punching the woman. Yeah, the woman came to our office with bruises all over her body. I've invited the guy. By Friday, he's coming to my office. So that is what sexual and gender-based violence has been involved here. Because most men feel that a woman has no right. Some, even when the wife say, I'm sick, you are talking nonsense. You go to a traditional ruler, they say, don't even mention this kind of thing. It's your husband that has control over your body. It's your husband that will decide how many children will be given birth to, not you. Not even taking into consideration the woman's well-being or health. So that is how sexual and gender-based violence occurred between husband and the wife.
Okay, so can that also be done against the man? Can sexual-based violence be done against the man? Yes,
but it's always on a rare cases. Then you say how? How? Because some women are like, sorry to say that, Delilah. They always feel that their sexual organ is a commercial commodity and it's a means to grab whatever they want. Whenever a husband comes to have sex with you, with her, you say, you buy me a wrapper. You remember you promised to buy so and so. I need 200,000. And no, I have to make transfer before. So such is sexual and gender-based violence. You are using it as a weapon when it's not supposed to be so. It's something that is created to show deeper love and closeness between husband and the wife. So if a woman uses it in the contrary to victimize the husband, most women, if the husband fail to fulfill whatever their demands are, the man will not touch them. A woman also came, I think 2 weeks ago, and was telling me that close to 2 years she haven't had sex with the husband. And I said, what? She said, because the house rent expired and the man said he has no money, that she ran around, get loan from somewhere and so on and pay for it. And until the man refund the house rent. Say, close to 2 years, you haven't had sex.
No, hold on. Who reported now?
The woman came to the office.
Oh, hold on. I didn't get the story.
Yes.
She was the one that paid for the house rent.
Yes, because the husband, the business he was doing, a kind of collapse and could not be able to pay.
Okay.
And the woman now felt it's the husband's responsibility to do so.
Okay.
And when she now finally, according to her, got loan either from the
NGOs or maybe
CBOs on their cooperative and so on, and pay. And insisted that the husband must refund, otherwise they will not have sex. And for almost...
she was the one that said that the husband would not have sex with her.
Unless he refunds the rent.
Until he refunds the rent.
Yes.
Is it... And she was the one that came to report?
No, okay, the husband brought the report to the office, and in her response, sorry, there was a mix-up there, and in her response, that was what exactly happened. And
that was what she said happened?
In fact, she confirmed. That was the purpose. She don't even have feeling for the man again when he cannot live up to his responsibility to provide necessities. And we were saying, you confirm that the business collapse. You now say, does the man not know what other men do? He's a young person, he should go and struggle and get the money. It's his responsibility. I also ask, assuming, God forbid, that this man dropped dead today, can't he also carry the family? He said that one will be a different thing. He will now know that she has become a widow, but she cannot be living as a widow while the husband is alive, just because he cannot provide. And this is a marriage that has lasted over 9 years or so.
9 years?
Yes, and the man was living up to his expectation until about almost a year and a half, getting to 2 now, when things become difficult. So it's also a part of sexual and gender-based violence, but this time against the man. Because of your question, can it happen to the man? Yes, but such scenario comes rarely. But it is also more often against the women.
So you feel that monies are somewhat triggers, or lack of money are somewhat triggers to gender-based violence?
It's one of the contributing factors, but not mainly what causes it. There are other factors. But when some women are so greedy and lack understanding, yes, it will become part of it. And that's why people often say you can't trust a woman to have loved you so dearly until you start lacking as a man, maybe financially and so on. And from what I experience in my office, it also affects the whole family, because you know also women has a way of being more close to their children. And some grown-up children, some of these women, when the man could not provide, will now start instigating the children against their husband, disgracing him openly to show he cannot even pay your school fees. I'm the one doing it. Look at the house. I'm the one paying for the rent. And when you discuss such issues with the children, then how do you think they will look at their father? They will look at him as nobody.
So basically, that causes it. Was one of the things that causes it. Lack
One
of
of the
funds.
things, yes.
So how then do you think that, you know, adults who are in marital situation should be able to manage the situation? Because sometimes life can be tough, you know. Sometimes life can be sweet too. But then again, how do you think individuals in their own stead can manage the situation? Because we've also talked about people who have money, and monies will be so much available, but you still experience sexually based violence.
Yes, that's to say that money is not everything, and that was why I told you that it is not the only factor. There are so many factors, and when you talk of how can marriage mates control this, one, cultivating trust, then having deep love and affection, and being open to each other.
Is love enough though?
And being open to each other, because if there is deep and sincere love between the two, and if there is understanding and trust, and if both of them are open, like the man will be very open regarding his income, expenses that comes, and so on. If you have an understanding wife and he knows these things, she will always be willing and know when to compliment. But if there is suspicion, if you are not open, any of the mates are not open, it can now breed such a problem. Lack of trust, suspicion can be a factor that will contribute to that between marriage mates.
So how do you think that the government can help in this situation?
Very good. One, I think the most important part of it is creating what we call legal and support services. Then again, public awareness campaign, sensitization, creating awareness. I think the Ministry of Justice has a department we call the Citizens' Rights and Mediation Center. These are part of the things they should do when husband and wife are having challenges. Like in my office, when we see such problem, we first of all have what we call caucus. Caucus means having each of them differently to speak to us. Even an underlying factor they could not say before any of the mates when they are present. They will talk to us differently. Then using that, we will now bring them together to make suggestions. And after suggestions, we'll now start what we call counseling. If the problem is coming from the wife, she will be coming on regular counseling, how to build a happy family, and showing the woman that even using such as a weapon against your wife and probably getting the children on your side to fight your husband always backfire.
How?
Because at a certain point, the only thing we have that is constantly change, the table may turn. And the children now will also turn against you. And assuming things were moving like that, and one day the man is no more, and the children grow up, that is how they will also be treating their own wife. Because they learn from their mother that husband and wife cannot work together. And the only two-day way to be into relationship or marriage is to victimize one mate. So that's why it can backfire. And also, like the Bible said, the children may grow to be thankless children. And when the father is no longer there, they fear nobody. And their mother, who felt that they were on their side, when they become hoodlums and so on, their mother will now be the first target to fight. We have handled such cases. So that is why counseling them and showing them the dangers could be that can possibly come up in the future will always save the family when we handle such matters. So government also should fund, support such systems, because issue of marriage, we have found out that going to court destroy more things than amending it. But coming to mediation will always get the parties to know their limitations, their rights, and how to apply it in order to live a successful family life.
If for instance, people come to SIDOC, and there is an involvement of sexual based violence, do you advise them based on what your findings are to separate or maybe divorce? Does it come to that? Even after the discussions? Because some persons would say the only thing that would make them leave their relationship is when the other party becomes violent. And nobody wants to be a victim of violence. We've seen what happened with the Ekweme Kruna. I think that's a trending story right now, Osinachi's story, you know. So in that stead, would you advise someone who is in that environment to leave their relationship?
Sure. When we have done all we could to salvage that marriage, personally, if it's a sin, if it's a sin, I have committed it severally. Because when I have done all I could, if it's a man, I will not tell you what to do, but I will advise. I will say, nah, if you are my son, I don't think this marriage has a future. Can continue. Because it's better to live, to tell the stories. Like when Osinachi died, the story became one-sided. It's just eyewitnesses and others that made his her husband to be culpable. Otherwise, he would have been his word against a dead person. And we advise even parents that contribute to this. Most times, you see the woman complaining that he has taken this matter to family and even her own parents. They will say, manage it now. With time, maybe this thing will stop. We in our family, we don't give a woman out for marriage and later the woman comes back. It's an abomination. But on our own, when we have done everything we could, we may ask them for judicial separation. Stay apart. Let's watch out. Within a period of 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. And if it persists and we feel it cannot, then it is better. Like we have it in one of our posters. It is better for you as a man or a woman to go to your parents or your family alive than to be taken to them as a corpse. So life is so precious. When we now see that the violence has escalated to the point of treating a party's life, how can we now urge the person to remain?
So how often, do you think these things come to the fore in your office? Like, the question I wanted to ask is, if somebody beats somebody once, and they come, do you feel that's enough for them to leave their relationship?
No. People do that for a lot of reasons. One is ignorance of the law. And when you come, some will even look at it as a right. They will say, yes, now, is he not my wife? It's just to correct him or her. And when we now get this violence against persons prohibition law, specifically section 19 of it, spousal or partner battery, We'll read it to you. That if any person beats his marriage partner or his marriage or intimate partner, the person commits an offense and be liable to, I think, about 3 years imprisonment, or pay a fine, or in extreme cases both fine and imprisonment. We will let you know all these things to tell you that it is not even a right to do that. So even when you have done it severally before coming to our office, that will not be the basis to either prosecute you or recommend for the marriage to end. We will look at it as acting out of ignorance. Maybe you don't know. And that is where counseling comes in. We will now take you through the necessary sections of violence against persons prohibition law.
But there are some women who also say they still love their husbands even after the beating. When you are faced with that situation, what happens?
Counseling too. And I'm telling you, because especially when children are involved, women are so passionate about their children. And they can give up anything for the sake of their children. I don't know how old you may be during the Civil War, but I experienced something.
I wasn't born then.
You're good.
I have been born then.
I experienced something. Most of the women that lost their life during that war did so because of their children. Maybe they would be in their business place or in the market, and suddenly the enemies invaded the place or air raid. People will start running to safety from what they are. But the woman will first of all want to run home or go to school, run to the school to rescue their children. And most of them lost their life in the process. Whereas the men will jump and follow the crowd, running for safety to save their lives. And also that takes me back to what the Bible said during the destruction of Jerusalem by the Roman army in 70 CE. He now says, woe to the nursing mothers, because it will be difficult for them to escape. So I'm just trying to illustrate to you how passionate women, feel or are to their children. And because of that, that is why, not because they enjoy that violence or battery, but because of the sake of children, most of them will tell us yes. And some would say, in fact, even if it doesn't bring feeding money or pay for house rent or school fees, I'm ready to do it, provided you people can plead with him not to beat me. If this beating can be removed, I can bear any other thing. That is most women for you. So normally it's not just because, according to your question, not just when it occurred once. You may come to us, and even after canceling you, the thing happens again. We will also invite you to also take you through the laws again, and they remind you of what we have done. Maybe this is the second time we will now take more punitive measure, because at that point we feel that you are no longer doing it out of ignorance, but you are now just saying, what can the law do? And at that point, we'll definitely show you that the law, nobody is above the law.
Mazi, Jerry, we just have to leave it there because of time. But we are going to keep engaging these issues with a view to bringing more perspective to it. Many thanks for your time.
Yeah, so much appreciate. Feel free anytime, any day. I'll be available because it's part of my passionate areas.
Fantastic. Great. Mazi Jerry Udochu is a Program Officer, Civil Resource Development and Documentation, CERDOC, giving us an insight into this amazing topic, the rising incidences of sexual gender-based violence. Many thanks for your time again.
Thank you very much.
Nature TV. News in your pocket.